Like,
no, I love that. And I love that, you say these things like, I was so mad and I did this and I took the leap of faith. Because in those, it's so funny because we always tell people, like, from the guy that's calling people that are getting mad about the verification. I've been there, having to help somebody in customer service, and somebody just rips your head off. I felt that way breastfeeding. I'm like, did you just bite me? Like, I can't, sir, we're in customer service. Like, you can't do that here. And so there's all these like feelers that moms have, and women and anyone has in those scenarios. So I love that you took how mad you were in that scenario and you didn't just go on. I mean, I'm not sure if you were super Facebook savvy back then, but you're not just complaining. You're not just, the number one rule in a call center is if you do not turn to your neighbor and complain about the caller, you're going to forget about that caller because there's so many bad callers. You'll forget about it. And what you focus on expands. So I just love how you took that anger and you manifested it somewhere else. You're like, I'm sick of being here. And the potential wasn't even what you saw in yourself. The potential is what they saw in you. And what other people think about you is none of your business. But obviously they saw and thought something so highly of you that, you're just rage applying. I don't even want in this department.
I really did. I stayed until 10 o'clock that night, just rewriting my resume and doing my thing. That's kind of my nature though. I feel very blessed with that, as I don't do victim very well. I'm the kind of person that when I wallow, because everybody wallows, I have a time limit because I get bored of it. I just like, what can I do to make this better is where my brain goes. Is there is something I can actually do that will make this situation better, even if it's just getting up and going for a walk. But, I'm sure I told you the story, but, I got pregnant in high school, my junior year of high school. I had my son in my senior year. And
I didn't know that actually.
Did, yes. So my son is 31 and it took me 7 years to get my associate's degree in graphic design because I wasn't going to let it hold me down. I couldn't afford to go more than that. And I didn't want to be away from my kids more than that. So I took 1 or 2 classes at a time. And 7 years later, I got my degree. Well, then after that, got to get the bachelor's degree. I got to show my kids how important it is to get that education. So I spent 9 more years taking classes and getting my bachelor's degree, and just pulling myself up and going to bigger and better places. I wasn't going to let circumstances change my value in myself. Right. And so I'm glad about that. Although, I question myself just as much as anybody does. I don't have the capability of staying there. I'll have that nasty little dialogue with myself that we all do, that negative committee in your head that you just need to shut up. But, again, at some point I just have to say, okay, that's enough of that. It's time to see what I can do to make the situation better. So
I love that. And to keep moving, I had someone one time call me heartless because when it's such a heated situation and you have to take a walk and you have to focus on other things, fighting and negative and whatever, or even sounds terrible because I am one of those people who can very much touch on depression. I've known about, suicidal thoughts and depression since I was a 14-year-old girl. And those are definitely, I would say, extremely harder when you don't have family and other support to rely on, and you have to be your support for yourself, because sometimes we do find ourselves in those scenarios, whether even though hubby's at work and kids are doing whatever they're doing, and maybe it's just like a small pep talk and that you have support, but you're kind of just having that flash of not being confident in yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody else is saying, how you criticize moving forward, as long as you keep moving. Because the minute that you can find out how to have a good day, you can have a good week, you can have a good month.
Yeah.
It goes on. So.
Well, and also not focusing on completely changing your day around. That's another thing, because then you feel defeated, because there's I'd say 90% of the time, there's no way to completely fix a day that's gone to crap. But there's almost no way. So what I do is I just say, okay, what can I do to make this day less awful? You know, instead of what can I do to make it better? And I recognize, so I have people in my family very close to me that, you know, have bipolar and depression and all kinds of stuff. So I recognize that that's not everybody's talent, but I think that everybody on the planet, and even those people I'm talking about, they do really well if they just have one thing that they can do better. And I actually have a dear friend of mine who's coming up with a program right now that's based on that and a number system. So can you bring yourself
out?
What's that?
You can give them a shout out if you'd like.
Oh, okay. It's Joytageous with Kim Oliver, and it's super fantastic. They're branding it right now, and it has really helped my family with that stuff. So, you know, how hard is it for you to ask your spouse, so what's wrong? Why are you upset? You know, to men, that's like, wah, 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 and it just irritates them. Right. But what if you could just say, what's your number right now? And they just, you know, tell you 4, which means you're just kind of doing pretty good, but, you know, you could just leave it alone.
That's a great thought.
Yeah, you don't have to go
ask people, how stressed out are you? They're like, I'm this stressed out. It's like, well, yes. Where are you?
Yes, it's fantastic. And they have a workbook that says, okay, so if you're at like a 2, which means you're pretty freaking low. you're I shouldn't have said freaking, but you're pretty low. And so there's steps that you can take, one thing that you do to bring yourself up to the next number. So going from a 2 to a 3. So Kim's philosophy really just intertwines with what mine has always been, except for she simplifies it. Like the numbers thing, I never even thought of that. My husband is not a chatty guy. I know I have 10 minutes to get in all the information I need to get. After that, he tunes out. He's done. So if I think something's wrong and I just say, hey, what's your number? He could tell me I'm at a 2, and I'll say, okay, so what can you do to get to a 3? That's all you got to do. Where's your workbook? It just is so much easier. And, you know, I've got addicts in my life, and that is very helpful for them because they're feeling super defeated and just doing one thing. So anyway, I hope everybody checks out Joytageous because it's amazing. So
yeah,
beautiful.
No, that's awesome. And it really comes down to another, I'm just going to keep quoting things. We call it the next right thing. What is the next right thing that you can do for yourself? So in that scenario, when you're that mad at your job, it's rewriting your resume so you can apply. It's not just applying, it's rewrite your resume.
Yes.
So
and taking that leap, you know, it's not easy. It's scary as heck. And my stomach was all in bubbles and I'm freaking out. And then I sat there and thought, what's the worst thing that can happen? They say no, and I have a current resume.
Yeah.
Like it's not the end of the world if they say no, you know, but it is the end of the world if I don't take action. So anyway.
That's such a good way to, and again, I love that because a lot of people are teen moms. We all, you know, we have these scenarios, and I can definitely say like we talk about the stigma in the workplace for women. Let's talk about the stigma of being a teen mom. Like that's not easy. I hated going to the school and I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't look like I belong here in the way that you think I do. So, so that's hard. And a lot of those times, I think it'd be easier if everyone just realized that we're all beating those, whether you're gay and you're beating those, you know, type of bullying, whether you're self-employed and everyone who works in 9 to 5 is like, no, you have to do this. And it's like, whatever is meant for you will be if you expand on that and believe in yourself.
I am 100% with you on that. I recognize that. So I am a fighter by nature. My brothers kind of made me that way. I had 3 older brothers who used to beat me up all the time, which might be why I believe I can do anything if I put my mind to it. But but I'm a fighter by nature. So if you tell me what I can't do, I'm going to do it. And so everybody told me that my marriage would never last and, you know, I'd be a terrible mom and all these things. I'm still married. They'll be 32 years in 3 weeks. And my kids are doing great. So, you know, I just feel like if somebody's trying to keep you down, give them the finger and show them why they're wrong instead of trying to prove them right. You know, you have no right to talk to somebody like that and assume that you know what their life is going to be like, because that's up to them. So, and the other thing I have a problem with is this social media thing. And that's actually something I posted a couple of weeks ago, that we're comparing everybody else's highlight reel to our raw material. We need to stop doing that, because even though somebody looks like the perfect mom online, making you feel like you're so inadequate because you don't love being with your kids 24/7, 365 days a year, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. We all have our own approach to everything. Diversity means that we're all very different people and have different approaches to doing everything. It doesn't necessarily make it wrong. Look in your child's eyes. Do they look happy? Do they look traumatized? Do they, you know, I mean, that's pretty much the only barometer that you need is your child doing okay? So, anyway.
And confidence. And I sat down with a coach one time and he asked me, Desiree, where are you at, like 1 to 10 in this, you know, family? Where are you at in business? Where are you at financially? Where are you at? Don't even remember the last one, but there was 4 of them. And, you know, 1 to 10, where are you at? And if any of those were off, if they fell below 6, I said, okay, you need to work on this. You need to bump this up. So is it, you know, working it out with your spouse? Is it doing more exercise? Is it eating healthier? To me, and I always feel that, you know, my child was, you know, I didn't have family support growing up, or at least the healthy kind that you should have. And so looking at what example he needed me to be and what I had to become for him was kind of my motivation for that. And it really goes to show to what, you know, other successful people, and I'm really measuring success by happiness. You know, I'm not measuring it by a 7-car garage house. You can live in a, you know, in a decent house or a small apartment and be so happy with what you're doing. I met a lady with the Salvation Army, and that's all she does is live in the housing, and she just serves her whole life, and that's all she wants to do. Anyways, yeah, just taking those.
Happy. Find your happy.
Yeah, find your happy. Exactly. And that's I have another friend. He helps homeless people rehabilitate them into the community, and he approaches homeless people as they're sleeping under bridges and they're sleeping in the parks, which, you know, pretty scary kind of job, but in all honesty, to him it's not. He's fine. He's trained. He loves doing it. I know for a fact he isn't making much. And in fact, I believe he's barely under the minimum wage. But that's the community, that's the service that he wants to do for our city. It's right here in Ogden, actually, and he's great. So
fantastic! What a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you gotta find your own happy. I mean, you know, I left a corporate job where I made very good money to work on my own and hope for the best. And I'm so much happier now than I ever was, because I have the freedom to do what I love and talk to the people I want to talk to and do the things I want to do. And, you know, on that note, I don't know if you know this, but the motto of my business is we help people see their inner beauty by capturing their natural joy in photos, because I want people to see how beautiful they are. It doesn't matter what you look like. You are beautiful. When you're showing who you really are, that is genuine beauty. Beauty to me is not an outside thing. It's that being. And if I can capture a little bit of that being, man, I have just made my whole day.
In those photos where you're looking at the couples and you're like, oh, the way he looks at her, like no one's looking at his weight. No one's looking to see if his teeth are white. Like they are just like, oh, he looks like he's in love. That's great.
They're not like, oh, he has a double chin. And no, none of that stuff matters, because it's the feelings that matter. When I do headshots, I always get a couple where they are just cracking up, and I give them to them, and I'm like, ask your spouse if that's the most beautiful picture they ever saw. And It is, because that's why they fell in love with you, is because, yeah, your outer beauty is definitely probably part of the attraction, but they stay in love with you because of who you are. So anyway, that's my little motto, is I love helping people see how gorgeous they are, no matter their weight, their, you know, whatever issues they think they have, because we really, it is insane to me, especially as women, we are so much harder on ourselves than men are. It's like, oh my gosh, this little hair right here that's driving me crazy today.
I'm like, this whole time.
Yeah. Instead of just sitting here and talking, I'm just like, oh,
yeah,
me.
We're terrible.
Yeah.
Throw my computer.
And I tell people, you know, think about this. When you're talking to somebody or looking at their photo, what do you see?
Not their, I don't know, them. Like
eyes in their mouth. That's it. Yeah. The rest of it's kind of just part of the ambiance of the picture. Their eyes in their mouth are what you're paying attention to. So when you're looking at your own headshot, look at that. Look at the eyes and the mouth, and everything else doesn't matter. Nobody cares but you. You're the only one that's nitpicking that.
Right. Someone told me one time, if you want like a good profile picture, you don't choose it. Have someone you love choose it for you. And that's, because it's probably not going to be the one that you were going to choose.
No. And, you know, I see women all the time. They're like, oh my God, this eye is half shut. Well, that's who you are. It's, you know, I mean, if it's actually an accident, but if all of your pictures are like that, then that's just the way you look, and you look beautiful. So just don't worry about it.
Yeah. And you're as pretty as you treat people. Don't get me wrong, I love what I'm called beautiful, but at the same time, a lot of the times I want to comment back and I'm like, yeah, so are other girls. Like, that's like, being beautiful to me is not like getting dressed up. It's not my body. It's not my face. It's not any of that. It's, did you help that person carry their stuff in through the door when you saw them struggling, and you were watching 10 other people watch them struggle, and you embarrassed yourself, you ran up, you know, that's beautiful to me.
It is. Well, and that's the stuff that's lasting, and the things that you can take real pride in, because your outer beauty is just, I don't know. I just think of, you know, when I was in high school, I would spend 2 hours every day getting ready to go to school. And I just think, you know, if I spent that 2 hours, or let's just say an hour and a half of that 2 hours actually studying, I probably would have been a 4.0 student.
You know, when I think back on that, now you're making me do a lot of reflecting. I'm like, I never asked for more money. I didn't get this grade point average because I straightened my hair more. Like,
well, I just think of all the time wasted on things that didn't matter. Like, yeah. I can tell you with absolute certainty, my husband loves me better without makeup than with.
Yeah, I get way more compliments without the makeup than with the makeup, actually.
Yeah. And I rarely wear makeup. I am today because we're doing this. But for the most part, I don't wear makeup anymore because I'm trying to help people see their own beauty. So I got to show mine. I don't color my hair anymore. So all the gray here.
It's beautiful.
I'm owning it, you know.
Owning it. Well, and thank you so much for being here. I really, again, I just needed to pick your brain on this, because photographers, you're hanging out a lot, and just like you said, you can't just like take a picture, because it's not about your face and or what you look like or how much you weigh. As if it was just about that, we wouldn't have poses. We wouldn't look better when we smile. We wouldn't look better, you know, with a little bit of light glare and whatnot. I think that it really is that moment. And like you said, a photographer that's able to work with you and your family to get you to capture it, because you want the photos of you looking like you're in love. That's not something you can just take a picture of, unless it's me in front of a pizza, you know, then it's fine. Then you're always going to get the same kind of love look.
Except then you'd have that, yeah.
But I mean, right when it gets there, and like me saying goodbye to the delivery guy.
Oh yeah, that's a good day. Good time.
Man. Woman, whoever you are. So, anyways, yeah, thank you for being here, because again, yeah, like I said, you can't just capture that stuff and just take a picture. You have to extract it out of somebody, and I kind of feel like that's what this conversation was about.
Well, and getting people comfortable and getting them to understand. So I know we're almost done, but I wanted to point one thing out really fast. So I was looking for a new doctor when I first moved to Ogden, and I was checking them out on LinkedIn. And one of them had a dog licking inside his mouth as his profile picture. And immediately I shut it down. I went to a different person just because of that. And it's like, okay, hold on a minute. LinkedIn is especially for professional stuff. You need to look like you take yourself seriously. Don't have a selfie on there. Certainly not one with your dog looking in your mouth. It's just not okay.
I'm gonna give you that because yeah, I like just mentally envisioning that. Yeah. I just got the chills. So
doesn't make you want to go see him as your doctor, right?
No. Well, and this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about in marketing. There was a sign. I went out of state for a job just recently, and there was a sign as we're driving, and it's like, make $20,000 from home. Call this number. I was like, yeah, that seems convincing. Like, I'm gonna call that number to make 20 grand from my house.
Oh yeah, because that, and it's handwritten, so you know.
Yeah, you know, and I'll be honest, I didn't call. I don't know if they make 20,000 a year. Maybe they do. Maybe whatever they do. I don't know what he does. I don't think it's very legal or very safe. But it didn't, you know, it didn't look appealing to me. And that is, again, the biggest thing in marketing and photography. I mean, people with your wedding photos, you can't read, you guys, hang on, you can't redo your wedding photos. You can't. So if you want to hire somebody else to do your family photos and those don't go that well, you know, you could probably redo those. I'll give you credit on those if you painfully need to try those on your iPhone. But your wedding photos, you are not allowed to not hire a professional. Yeah. It'll be one of your biggest regrets.
Well, and think about this. I have this a lot where they're like, oh, I found out my cousin is a photographer, so we're going to have her do it. Okay, that's really sweet, and I'm sure it's going to save you a ton of money, but you're forgetting about family dynamics in there. Mm-hmm. And there are always issues with that. And part of having a professional photographer is they know how to keep things calm and keep things happy around the bride and groom. And they don't have any preconceived issues with anybody. They're just, yeah. And so it's a really great thing to do that. The second thing is if it's your cousin doing it, how dedicated do you think they are to making sure that those photos are edited to the best of their capability and delivered to you in a timely manner? Mm. I actually had a client the other day ask me to do some anniversary photos because they had been married 18 months and still didn't have their wedding photos back from her cousin. 18 months.
I would cry.
Yeah. And it's now caused this drama because the cousin is like, quit bugging me about it. I will get them to you as soon as I can. I'm too busy, you know, whatever. And the bride and groom are like, yeah, but this is our wedding. Can we get it? And she's like, we're going to be married forever. Just don't worry about it. So yeah, you want to have a professional. That is an important thing for your wedding. Those are the things that people can't wait to get from a wedding, as you know.
Yeah, I want your cousin doesn't care about her not reviews going on her not page. Like your photographer will do a good job. That's just crazy. Okay, well, my friend Brooke will do a great job. I can't speak for all photographers. There's a lot in your area, I'm sure. But Brooke Lyons, Affinity Photo Studio. Did I say that right? Okay. Located in Ogden. And what is your travel range? Like, where do you go?
I'll go anywhere. My kids are grown. I'm free. So, you know, if you want to go get married in the Caribbean, I will come with you.
Nice. I love it. Which honestly, if you go out of town and I've done this once before, I did not have a good experience with the photographer that I Googled. So if you are doing a destination wedding, it actually might be beneficial to work out a plan with your photographer and talk about that here in your hometown. Yeah. That you trust. So
it's well, and you can get recommendations from people that you trust.
Yes.
Strangers that you don't know anything about. You can say, hey, Des, who's a good photographer? And they trust you, so they would get a good referral. So anyway.
red flag, if your photographer does not have a referral anyway, like, and I'm not saying like, you know, you need a referral in Hawaii, but if your photographer does not have a referral, it means that they maybe not be networking with other photographers, which to me is a red flag. I think that business owners, they especially kind of stay in the same industry,
Yeah.
they do know of each other and they do support each other.
Yeah, I actually did that last year. I had a client call me off of a Facebook referral and wanted to know if I did large groups. And I just said, well, it's not my specialty. I prefer 1-to-1, 2-to-1, because again, I'm trying to capture that joy, and doing that with 30 people is not possible. Yeah. So then you're just going for a good photograph. Yeah. But I'll do it, and this is what I charge. But so-and-so and so-and-so, I'm not going to say their names because I don't know if they want me to say anything, but do incredible jobs at these large family photo things. And I gave them their contact info and sent them to them. And she got in contact with them, and she ended up contacting me back. And she goes, I just think it's so cool that you sent me to somebody else, that I want you to do it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's great. And now she's actually a dear friend of mine. She's just lovely. But most of my clients are dear friends of mine now, because that's just my nature. But I just want to be close to the people I'm around. But anyway.
In those experiences, sorry, I will let you go. I always go over my time really fast. So in those, because you do the maternity photos, do you do like the flowy, like really pretty maternity photos type of thing? Yeah.
So the deal is that with a photographer, go online and check out their portfolio before you talk to them, because if the photos aren't your flavor, find out if they can do your flavor, because most of us can. A lot of the stuff we're posting online is because that's what the client requested. So it doesn't mean that we can't do other things. So based on their experiences and all that other stuff, but it is really important that you check out their portfolio. You know, are the pictures crisp? Do they look good? Is the lighting good? All that stuff. And then if you want something special, like there's a lot of editing techniques, especially with maternity and bridals right now, where you add the flowy thing, or light shooting through something. All that stuff is things that you can do as long as you have graphic design capabilities. So.
Yeah, which in my experience all over it, you can take a good photo, but you cannot take a great photo without both the capabilities, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So, okay.
But,
well, yeah.
I'm a little biased, so.
Well, so you have a website. Like I said, I'm going to link everything in below. I will actually, if you will give me your friends' information as well, we'll link their information too. And then, yeah, what is your website? Let's just shout it out for people driving.
affinityphotostudio.com. So Affinity, AFFINITY, photo studio.
Perfect.
1 S.
And then you're on Facebook and you're on Instagram. Okay.
And several other places, but those are the two main places. So.
Perfect. And then, yeah, and so you'll go anywhere. You're in Ogden, but you will go anywhere. So.
Yeah, I'm game. I think I love to travel, and I love new challenges and new places I get to take photos at. So anytime somebody asks me for a recommendation on a place, I'm like, oh, let's go here. I've never been there, because I want to do all of them.
And you guys, I've been to a wedding with Brooke before. She's super, super sweet, super easy. Like, you get along with everybody. You're just, like I said, that's why I had to get you on here, because you're very soft spoken. You're very like, I feel like almost reserved if we didn't know you. But once we get you, you're this big ball of energy, and you've got a lot of good ideas and a lot of strengths about you.
Well, I'm very shy by nature, unless I know you. So it does come across as reserved and that kind of thing, but it's just because that's the way I am. I'm not the boisterous person that walks into the room and says, hey, what's up? It's me.
And those people, I mean, I've been that person, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that shot me in the foot. Like, don't be that person. And then there's other times where I'm really reserved, and I'm like, oh, this isn't working for me either. So just be the best you can, and that's my advice for
they find you and do that. I don't know if you've ever done this. Now we're going over even longer, but there's a book called Clifton's Strengths Finder. Mm-hmm. And it helped me a ton in understanding myself and coaching myself on how to be a better me, work-wise, personal, all that stuff. And I ended up using it as a coaching tool for all of my staff when I was a branch manager, because then I could understand what they were naturally good at and help guide them towards those things.
I like that.
So it's the only test of these that I've ever been able to do, because I'm equally right and left brained. And so any other personality test is just very confusing. I get conflicting results on them.
Yeah.
But this one, all it does is say, these are your top 5 strengths. And you can say, okay, so that's what I'm really good at. That's what I should be focusing on. Instead of me trying to be, which on StrengthsFinder, they call it woo, which is, hey, what's that? That's me. It's not me. So my strengths are that I have responsibilities, number 1, achievers, number 2, which means I have to achieve something every day, or I feel like even on vacation, I have to, I have to be accomplishing something. It's just the way I'm built. Focus, I can focus like nobody's business. I'm a relator, which means I like to have personal relationships with people. I like to have one-on-one where I really know you and you really know me relationships. I don't need to know everybody in the world. I just need to know a few people really well. And then one that's self-assuredness, which is funny because when I first read that, I was like, what? I doubt myself more than anybody. And then I read it and it actually says, I have belief in my own capability of figuring out anything.
You do.
And that's true. It is true.
You're like, oh, that is actually accurate.
Yeah. It's not that I have a lot of self-confidence, but I do have confidence in my ability to do things. So
yeah,
or to figure things out or whatever. But anyway, I'm just a big, big fan of those. And if you feel like you're at a place in your life and in your parenting and your business, in your personal life, whatever, where you want to know what you're really good at so that you can focus more on that, take the StrengthsFinder test. You can get it on Amazon for like $15.
StrengthsFinder test?
Yeah, it's called StrengthsFinder 2.0.
We'll link that in here too. So
okay. And it is just amazing. And I found, like I said, it works for business and personal, like you say that I'm kind of reserved. Well, that's the relator in me, is I want to have really good relationships with people. So if I don't really know you, I'm not really going to talk to you, because I'm not comfortable going up and being the first one to shake somebody's hand and say, hey, what's going on? So, and rather than me taking that as some sort of failure, that I'm not naturally somebody that can just talk to anybody, I take that as that's a strength of mine. I can have those personal relationships where, you see that I'm insightful and say such wonderful things about me. So
yeah, exactly. Well, and it reminds me of that, like I said, the key components to any part of a business, because a great marketing class one time told me, can't be the batter and the pitcher. You have to be one or the other. And in this scenario, it doesn't sound like, because you're obviously not missing that ability to be forward. You're a mom and you have that strength in you, and you trust that, you'll find that if and when you need it, but it just kind of balances it out. And so you're able to be, I would even, this sounds mean, you're able to be a little less so somebody could be a little more, but it's good. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't offend you because they're filling in the gaps that you're missing. Like, we can't be all things to all people. And I know that's the hardest thing for every woman on this planet to understand, is that we just can't. We are not superwoman. We want to be, but we're not. So, and if you keep trying, you end up getting sick. It's just, life will smack you down.
Literally.
Yeah, so filling in the gaps. And anybody that's owned a business or been a manager or things like that, the whole point in the hiring process is to hire people that can do what you don't do, and to fill in the gaps for your strengths so that you have a well-rounded, diverse team. And so the StrengthsFinder is fantastic for that. One other thing that StrengthsFinder was really good for me for is I used to have to go to a lot of networking things as a manager and as a business banking manager, and I absolutely hated it. I go into these 250 women that I I don't know anybody. It is so overwhelming for somebody like me. I am kind of shy. I don't like crowds, and I would just panic, and I come back to the office with 50 cards, and I didn't remember a single person.
Yeah.
So I started analyzing my strengths finder, and I thought, okay, how can I make this so I actually want to go to these things and that they're effective and not a waste of my time. And what I did is I decided if I can go and make one genuine connection, then it wasn't a waste of my time. And so that's what I would do is I would go and try to meet one person instead of I'm trying to meet 250 people.
Yeah.
Way too overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
And now I have a solid list of connections and people that I know and that I trust because I've taken the time. So I'd make that genuine connection, and then I'd go back to the office and I'd shoot them an email and say, gosh, it was really nice to meet you. Let's do lunch or coffee sometime. And so then you further that connection. So that's how I translated the strengths finder into a good for me is, you know, the woo people know everybody and they're very boisterous and they get a lot of business just because they have that dynamic energy, which is super cool. Not me.
Yeah.
I get business because people want a genuine connection with somebody and they want somebody that they can trust. And so anyway, check it out. It is super fun. Send me your results. I'd love to see them.
Yeah, I for sure will. And I mean, and side note, people are probably hiring you because you're not taking 18 months to get back their wedding photos.
Yes.
Don't do that.
I have a 2-week turnaround limit on my stuff.
Love it. That's okay. Yeah, let's add that in there. 2-week turnaround. If you're hiring Brooke, you're amazing. That is a way nice turnaround. So, yeah. Okay. We're always over time. I'm always over my time. It's so good to talk to you today. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks, Des. I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Well, you guys, like I said, we're going to link all of her information in the About Me, all of her pages. Go give Brooke some love and mom, stay sane, stay confident, stay educated, keep learning. So